Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan, and I am not back for like every week, but the stars aligned, and I had a free night, or not, more like a free couple of hours.
Yeah, that's kind of how it gotta go. But I know that just even with recording via VHS with Wes and so on like that. There's like that pocket window of time, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And that's always the challenge of everything. And actually, it kind of worked out for me too because I was doing like some cleaning today. Anyways, I went through all these like giant stacks of comic books. Sometimes you don't know how many comic books you have until you've popped open your bins a couple of times, and it's just like, holy crap! I forgot how many single issues I have. Like not even graphic novels. Like I thought one bin was all graphic novels, and I was like, no, it's all single issues and everything like that here. And then you find some cool ones. You're like, I forgot. I'm like, I got Captain America 50th anniversary. It's like badass, like a Captain America stand there, American flag, stand in the ground. I don't think it's holographic, but for some reason I picture it being holographic.
Captain America, like 50th anniversary. That sounds like that would have been like way sooner than like. I mean, holographic cover sounds like something that would have been in the 90s.
Yeah, Well, I think 50. So yeah, so we've been somewhere about that, but yeah, no, it's just one of those ones. Just going through those, and you're just like, man, it's just like there's so many of them here. But then you also find some books. You find some books. You go like, I don't even remember buying this one. What is this book? It looks brand new to me.
Yeah, there's like occasionally, it's bad when like, because there's one time I went on a trip and like I brought, ironically enough, Hawkeye and Green Arrow, two different Hawkeye and Green Arrow. It wasn't, I was trying to do like a theme. It just happened that way. I stuck them into like a backpack. I was on a trip, and then they're in this one of those little sleeves. You kind of totally forget that it's there. I'm like, I could have sworn I had this Hawkeye and this Green Arrow book, but for life of me, maybe I never bought those. I don't know. Maybe I didn't. And then I go and rebuy them, and then I'm getting ready to pack for another trip like 2 years later, and I find out, oh shit, I totally did have these. So it's just one of those things. Like, yeah, I know it's bad sometimes. I haven't done a lot of comic shopping in a while, but I think the last I'm just more working down my stack right now. And ironically enough, finished off like that Old Man Logan run, which I think Old Man Logan ended when it did Dead Man Logan, which I haven't jumped on, but I finished up that Old Man Logan continual run most recently. But beyond that, not a lot recently. But it's bad when you go to like a comic book store and then you have to think to yourselves, do I have volume 4? Do I have volume 5? You have to think about it for a minute sometimes.
Yeah, I know that happens. Where you're like, wait a second, I'm not too sure, I can't remember, and so on like that. Yeah. As I said,
because you buy it, like I'll get around to reading this, and it sits there for a year, and you think, wait, did I get that? So
yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. I've told that to myself, for like the last 30 years. It's like, do not continuously buy more than you can actually indulge in. And that never seems to, you could say that to yourself over and over, but you'll still go out there and go, oh, it's good. There's 5 new books. They all look really good. Or here's, 6 more new movies, but I didn't watch the previous 10 that I bought, but, I'll get to it.
Not to play favorites too much. The ones that always seem to make like always cut to the front of the line is if it's like a new Batman book. If it's like a new Batman book, then that always cuts to the front of the line for me. Or if it's a writer I really like, it's a book I'm really anticipating. To bring it back to the main topic of the day, Greg Capullo went over to Marvel and he's doing a Wolverine book. So yeah, I'm gonna have to keep my eye on that. I haven't kept up with Marvel in a long time. Not that I dislike them, I just kind of fell behind and got kind of more picky and choosy with them. Like I think the last Marvel stuff I was reading was Old Man Logan miniseries. This is barely old, Cosmic Ghost Rider, and then like Hawkeye before that. But I don't know. I've been kind of in a little bit of a Marvel mood lately.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I was going through that Wolverine marathon for like a good while where it was like, oh, here's another one on Comixology Unlimited. I've never read that before. Let's read that. So I just kept going through them. And then recently I've been doing a Turok marathon of like the 90s comics, because I played through Turok 3, which I never had before on N64, and they had that remaster that came out a couple months ago. And I was like, you know what? I have all these Turok comics sitting here. Let's pull these things out. So There's like two variations of them. There's there's the Valiant comic era, which is really good. I mean, extremely good, very very hardcore Turok. And then there's a second version that's the Acclaim one. When Acclaim bought Valiant, the company that made the Turok games and so on like that. And that one's just more like, it's Turok for the 90s. He's a wacky college kid that's always getting pussy. And he's got a nerdy, roommate who he makes sleep outside. But, in the meantime, he has to fight dinosaurs, and mutants, to protect America. Turok.
He always enters every room grinding on a skateboard. That kind of shit,
Yeah. So he plays baseball. That doesn't seem very 90s in a weird way. I know Barry Bonds and Sammy Sosa's all big then, but it feels like it's in the 90s. I'm surprised he's not playing basketball.
Yeah, it's like I'm wondering, like, is it one of the? I feel a little bad for the guy, of course, but just to add that, because it's that point where it kind of comes in waves, where it's just like, see that fucking nerd, put him in his fucking place. Then there's that level of like, hey man, don't be mean to the nerd. It's okay to laugh at the nerd, but they're subhuman. But you're nice to your dog, right? So be nice to the nerd, kinda, And then like there reaches that point of like, you know what? No, nerd's the main character. Nerd's the main character. I feel like it kind of goes back and forth a little bit like that. Now, when he kicks the nerd out, like, is there like is that like his best buddy that he just either is it kind of like Chunk or whatever from like Goonies, like make fun of the fucking fat kid or whatever, or is it like he sends him out there like, hey man, like socks on the handle, get the fuck out, and all of a sudden he's like attacked by a velociraptor?
They are best buddies. It's like the weird thing is like, because Turok in this one, because it's like I felt like they did the thing. They're like, we need to kind of Batman Begins this shit, and it's actually before Batman, or not Begins, Batman Beyond this shit. Where like we need a more not really kid friendly. It's a college book, so I don't know. It's not like it's like kid friendly, but like we need to tone it down because in the previous like story, it's like Turok's like from like back in like the early 1800s before the white man, and all of a sudden he's sent like 200 years into the future and stuff like that, and so he's got to kind of relate to like the future world, and he's really good at killing fucking dinosaurs. So the government's like, you know what? You're the only one who could take care of this T-Rex, Turok. Here's a government contract and a fully loaded machine gun.
I like that more.
Yeah, that one. I haven't
read it.
The Valiant ones. I think there's like 48 comics or something of that run. That run's so good. But the other one, it's not bad, but like it just is very. It's like like almost
of
like
the moment, very of the moment.
Yeah. It's total. You know what? You can tell it's like it's going for like that Gen 13 kind of era where like all the characters have to relate. Like they're always throwing out like of the moment pop culture references and so on like that. It's just weird in a Turok one, but it's just like, yeah, Turok, he's the most baddest ass jock, the star baseball player of the school and whatnot, and his best bud's the biggest fucking nerd you've ever seen. How do these guys get along? I don't fucking know, but you're gonna find out. Turok, rated PG-13.
For some, violence and mild language and suggestive themes, just like that's like the most weakest shit for like just like for what it should be. But does his friend at least do anything? Like he sees like a dinosaur and he knows like the type of dinosaur it is. Like that's a Gynus geologicus, it's weak in the knees or whatever. Or like
yeah, he is definitely like the call on like, hey, there's a computer that needs to be hacked. Nerd, go. That kind of stuff. Or there's a lot of issues where he sort of is like doing the narrating, like, well, let me catch you up to speed here. This is who Turok is and so on like that. And he'll like put like his 2 cents in between. Yeah, he's always getting laid and I'm always there just to video record it for him so he could see the play-by-play later. I guess it's a good job.
He's doing the Patrick Bateman thing where he's watching himself in the mirror, like kissing his fucking arm while he's fucking...
Well, there's even like one issue where the cover is literally like it has like it's Turok on spring break, and it's just them like driving in a car. There's like a bunch of like it says babes are all circled around these two guys as they're driving off, but they don't know that they're going to the Lost Land.
Oh shit. There sometimes is that I don't know. There's something about like the pulpy dinosaur thing, which is always kind of like I forget like a forgotten subgenre of science fiction. Like it still pops up, or like, yeah, okay, they go to the Savage Lands or whatever. But I mean, like, where that's the main focus of this series, like the pulpy, um, prehistoric adventure thing. Like, I never played the game, nor have I ever seen the cartoon, but just the look and the aesthetic of it was pretty cool. The Cadillacs and dinosaurs, where it's kind of like, you know, like it has that whole like 1950s kind of rockabilly, but rockabilly kind of like adventure Johnny Quest kind of mixed with it, you know, with dinosaurs and shit, you know.
Yeah, I know. It's just in that cool. Well, that was like the thing is like, you know, back in the day, if you would have asked me on Turok, I would have been like, oh, Turok, it was based off, that game's based off a 90s comic book. And then I remember there was one time I looked it up, like, you know, many years ago by now, but I was like, oh no, this thing actually started like in the 40s and 50s or whatever like that. I think maybe the 50s. But like that's how old fucking Turok is, you know. And I think it was that thing like it had a run to like maybe the 60s or something like that and then kind of fade away for a moment and whatnot. And then I think what happened is when Jurassic Park came out, like, oh fuck you, we were doing this dinosaur shit way beforehand. Bring back the Native American boy. You know what I mean? He'll kick some ass. I think that's because like that Valiant comic is literally 93, so you could totally tell what fucking happened there.
I tell you what, fucking that would not have been a problem, you know, like for like fucking Grant's a pussy compared to fucking Turok, let me tell you. Like just the whole thing of just like there's no sense of suspense, there's no problems because Turok's there. And the part's like, what are you fucking pussies doing hiding in a kitchen? You're surrounded by knives, or butcher knives. You didn't fucking think to attack them? Well, no, you know.
Yeah. Well, Turok, he's been a hunter his whole life, you know what I mean? Before he was out on the plains, you know, hunting bison and bear and all that stuff. And then next thing you know, he's hunting dinosaur, you know, man's biggest predator.
Ever had a T-Rex steak?
Turok always
gamey, believe it or not.
That's how he starts his day off. But yeah, going through those, it's been just really cool because it's something I've always wanted to do. So I'm kind of glad I finally sat down and started reading all those books. I do kind of want to pick up like the 50s and 60s ones or whatever, just to see what those are all like, because that could be kind of fun too. Because I bet you they're in that very more pulpy kind of, even though it's kind of post that section. But
well, it just sounds like such a now kind of. I mean, I know heavy metal and all that was a thing back then, but it sounds like such a now kind of thing, like a guy goes back, or even like 80s and 80s and forward kind of thing, like a guy gets sucked in time, futuristic shit, also killing dinosaurs. But at the exact same time, like it also sounds like I want to know what someone in like the 70s or the 60s, what like level, how many steps ahead they were when like making that. How's that look? Like Frank Frazetta drawings come to mind, you know?
yeah, well, that's kind of how those covers look. They have that sort of like that almost like Conan look to them. So I want to see what they're kind of like. And I'm not too sure if they're all like comics or if some of them are novels too. Because sometimes that's that thing too. Back in those days, is a lot of times it's like, oh, they're short novels, just like the Conan books and so on.
Yeah.
But there's one thing I wanted to say real quick. It's not Turok oriented, but I literally did like what felt like the fattest guy thing to do, or the most laziest man guy thing to do, is Wes was telling me, he was all like, oh dude, you know what I just saw at Walmart the other day? Wes of Via VHS, to not confuse our Wes's, but he's all like, dude, he's like, I saw like a special edition steel book version of Cutthroat Island. I'm like, what, really? I'm like, I've always wanted to have a good version of that movie because it's always been just like the crappy DVD single layer, not formatted to widescreen, of course no special like one of those ones where it wouldn't have been the biggest deal if you're watching on a 22-inch like CRT TV back in the day, but you try to watch that movie on like a big screen when you're like, oh god, it's just all kind of crappy looking and so on. So I'm like, really? And then it's like, so I looked it up. I'm like, oh, it's a Walmart exclusive for some reason to get that. And then I'm like, well, whatever. Got a Walmart. I'll go check it out to see if they have it there. I go there and like, oh, they don't. What's God damn it, stupid Walmart. And they're like non-selections of Blu-rays. It just looks like a tornado went through there and nobody's ever really fixed it since then. And then so I did the thing where I looked. I'm like, I'm gonna look on the app real quick. And I looked on the app and it's like, well, it says the store has it, but obviously it's not out. So I'm like, whatever, I'll just order it. And then I did the curbside pickup. So I'm sitting there in the car, you're watching all these people, they're getting their full groceries and everything like that brought out. And then all of a sudden, it takes two of them too. They come out carrying literally a Blu-ray
On a silver platter.
Bring it to my window. It's just, I was like, this guy doesn't even want to fucking go inside to pick up a DVD.
Well, if they don't have it and you're like, hey guys, it's here, come the fuck on. Like, it is what it is, But I'm sure the conversation they had, like, when they got the ticket was like, are you fucking? Well, I mean, at least it's easy. At least it's one thing. But...
yeah, at least, because I did see somebody else. They got fucking wheeled out. Like it was like 8 bins worth of stuff. So at least mine didn't take a whole lot of effort. But it just really looked like what kind of 400-pound man is going to be sitting out there like eating Jack in the Box, waiting for us to come deliver his movie to him. It's just like I'm just sitting there like, hey.
What that, or it could, I mean, I don't know what goes through their mind. Maybe they probably think it's some like super like socially awkward autistic person who's just like, that's probably what's coming to mind. Just someone who's like afraid to leave. Like they're like, just give me the movie, just some shit like that. Because they're used to probably getting like, okay, get like the 5 like jugs of juicy juice, get the fucking like lifetime supply of macaroni and cheese, and
throw some cheesy poops in.
The strawberry shortcake flavored Oreos, and get them the fuck out of here, and just pile it all in. He's gonna yell at us if it doesn't fit because we're too looking lazy. We're not Tetrising this thing right,
But he won't get his fucking recycle out of the back too. That he says he's gonna take in at some point, but he hasn't. It's been there the last 5 times he showed up.
God, pick driver's side, like. I can't believe driver's side pickup for Walmart. God, I hope they're making money on that. I know they're making money. I hope they're getting paid well for that shit. Because oh my God, I can only imagine the fucking horror show that is.
Yeah, as I say, you just don't know who the hell you're running into every single time you go out there, But I guess that's a good one to know. Just the fact if there's a movie that like, because Walmart's so bad about it, every once in a while there's like you just kind of have to go get a movie, or they have ones that, for some reason, Cutthroat Island, this kind of an obscure movie anyways, but for some reason it's limited to Walmart only. This is the way that you can kind of get it.
I just like to imagine like fucking Sam Walton's like Futurama head in a jar attached to a robot, like. What are the licenses we're about to lose? Like, oh, well, somehow we got Cutthroat Island on here. I never know. We'd be like, get it going now. Move on it. Like, what? We're going to lose a license in 2 days. Fucking get going. Just like, I didn't think anyone's going to buy this. Someone will.
Well, see, I always thought Cutthroat Island, like, they really missed a very opportune time to re-release that movie. They should have done it when the Pirates of the Caribbean came out. They should have been like, 2-disc special edition DVD, boom, here you go. You guys want to see a pirate movie that's like, that was doing it right before Pirates of the Caribbean was doing it? Here it is. Just 90s, apparently pirates just were not popular.
No, I don't. Even a lot of movies didn't come out. A lot of pirate movies didn't come out when pirates. I think that. I mean, there's a pirates porno that was really popular. They're even renting over at Blockbuster. But I mean, beyond that, there wasn't like. I don't remember seeing pirates casually and then like anything. Maybe just a bunch of straight to DVD shit.
Yeah, nobody.
Asylum level shit.
Yeah, no, it's weird how sometimes. It's even like with Jurassic Park. I always thought it was weird that there was no other dinosaur movies that kind of really came out. I mean, there's Carnosaur, the what's his name movie, but
Roger Corman.
Yeah, Roger Corman. I mean, granted, Turok took advantage of it, and offshoot stuff like that. But yeah, it's kind of just bizarre. But
I think a lot of people just looked at Jurassic Park like, dude, what's the fucking point? Like, we can't do that. Roger Corman's like, I can do it for a quarter of the budget. Watch me, and then like. Well, you didn't, but you made something, so right on. And then I think that beyond there, everything else was like, well, who really likes dinosaurs? Kids. Let's make a bunch of dinosaur-oriented shows and toys
cartoons
and stuff.
And so on.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that, but yeah, beyond all that fun stuff, we just went and saw Wolverine and Deadpool, Deadpool 3. And boy, it was kind of a magical moment because I really didn't watch a whole lot of stuff on this because I kind of was like, I know I want to see it, so I don't need to, other than like the basic trailers, I don't need to see anything more than that, you know. And I don't even think I saw the last trailer because I don't think that appeared in theaters or anything like that. So they just had the one where Wolverine kept yelling at the fucking screen for people to turn their fucking cell phone off before he shoved his fucking.
We had that one here, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like they played that one a lot. Like it didn't matter what movie you went and saw. They're like, you know what, this is kind of good. You know, when Wolverine threatens people, they listen.
Yeah, no, they need to have that. Like, just some guy dressed like Hugh Jackman with knives on his hands, waiting over at the lobby. Like, just try it out, bub. You know, see what happens.
Yeah, just drinking like a 6-pack of beer, so you know he's ready. He ain't fucking around.
This cosplayer is taking it to a new extreme. Yeah. Before we go into because I feel like you can't really talk about this movie without going into spoilers. So, because there's like so little they leave out of the trailer. There's so much that's left out of the trailers. So overall, like, would you say you good, liked it, good to check it out?
I liked it quite a bit. I think by the time I was kind of done, it was one of those ones where I was like, you know, that Deadpool trilogy is pretty much all solid all the way through. I don't really have too much negative to say about any of those ones. And then just the fact that because I didn't realize this kind of going in there, but like, oh, it's like a send-off to the Fox era. So it's kind of it's neat for all of it. It makes me feel fucking old. That made me really fucking old too, especially at the end credits and so on like that. Like, that's my generation they're talking about there. What do you mean you're going away?
Playing Good Riddance by Green Day.
You're ending our generation's timeline. Yeah, get out of here, old man. Fucking old man podcast. It's old man occupied. Nobody gives a fuck. You're old. You've been doing this podcast since fucking since X-Men 3.
I know this song was out before then, but that's the song they played at my middle school graduation. So to be seeing like all these all these like shots of X-Men, like I saw that in middle school.
That's literally the same song that they played too. And maybe it was we didn't have middle school, but it was at the elementary school graduation. They did that same thing. And I remember all of us like, Green Day, like, come on, man, like, get some fucking Metallica or something.
Can you play some Pantera?
Yeah, and then the teacher, no.
Cannibal Corpse, what the fuck? Yeah.
Yeah, so just stand there like arms crossed, like. They're like, dude, this is your guys' generation. Fuck that, man. No way.
It is only elementary school. Fuck. No, but like, so going into this movie, I kind of knew what it was going to be, but I was avoiding spoilers and I was avoiding all that stuff. And the trailers did a pretty good job. The only thing that got kind of spoiled for me that I knew about was just because I saw like toys for it and whatnot, was Wolverine pulling on his mask. That was the only spoiler, because that would have been such a like fuck yeah moment. It still was a fuck yeah moment, but like, and how he doesn't just have it on for 5 minutes, he has it on for basically the whole last scene of the movie, more or less.
Yeah, he's got it on for a while, which is kind of cool. Now, I'll say, speaking of the Wolverine mask, do you think, I was thinking there was like two ways that mask could have gone, either with eyes or the white eyes that they chose. What do you think would have been the way to go? Would you be the Batman it and kind of have his eyes show through? Because in some variations of Wolverine, you can see his eyes, and then there's other variations where he has the pure white. So I thought that like...
Same thing with Batman, but I think the white was a good choice just because it was the same as Deadpool, you know.
I think that's what it was. Is it matched Deadpool, you know? But it did seem kind of I was like, I wonder which way what would it have looked, you know, if it had his eyes through, kind of Batman style.
Well, I also thought it was like, it was one of those things because, you know, Deadpool at least has the benefit. Deadpool and Spider-Man have the benefit of having their whole face covered, so you're kind of like, well, how's it going to look on someone where part of his face is still exposed? And it still looks really good. So, and I think that other movies you might be questioning it, but this one, because overall, like, people are like, most criticism of the movie is pretty good, but there's a lot of kind of more, I'm not sure if you'd say totally pinky out newspaper like journal critics, but there's a lot of people saying like you have to like Fox movies, you have the Fox superhero movies, you have to like Marvel, you have to be really in the know to enjoy this. And I don't think you have to be so much. I think it really helps, but I think that as long as you have a good baseline understanding of this, I think you can kind of pick up on it and get with it. And as long as you don't hate Deadpool and you don't hate superheroes, you should be good.
I still like how you said like you have to like Marvel. It's like, yeah, I kind of would hope you would like Marvel going to be like one of the people saying like fucking Marvel shit. What are you doing here? You see every single movie. Yeah, at some point it's gonna fucking work out, but it just hasn't yet.
No, like because like a bunch of apparently like the only places apparently where it's all really bad like reviews is like because like a lot of online reviews and like video reviewers and all that kind of stuff are all saying it's awesome. And right now, even I don't take the site too seriously, but it has like something like an 80 something on Rotten Tomatoes. But like it's all like, but like apparently like majority of from what I've seen, at least over here, all like newspapers and magazines like, what is this hogwash? This trite, that kind of very like bullshit. You're like, oh well, I mean, yeah, I think that some people, I'm not gonna lie, this movie is a total like embrace of fandom and like and genre and all that. But at the same time, I think if you do it right and you show you care, it kind of shows. Not just like, hey, look, kids, it's like not like the end of the Flash, where it's just like, hey, it's the pig trough of all the references. Come and get it, piggies. Just pouring in at the end.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing. This one is it goes kind of hard on the Deadpool thing, and that's the thing. I think that's the biggest make or break is: do you like Deadpool or do you not like Deadpool? Because that's the thing is that's that kind of character that you're either gonna really like him or you're gonna be like, that guy is fucking obnoxious, And I'll even say this: you could be a big comic book fan and probably not like Deadpool. I'm not. I wouldn't really. If somebody told me that's like they just didn't really care for that type of humor or something like that, I could kind of go, well, you know what? I get it. It's he's definitely not for everybody. But I assume that if you're going to see a Deadpool movie by this point on the third one, that you're in. Like you can be that guy back there. It's like, when is it going to impress me? He's going to say something funny at some point, a real joke. You know what I mean? Stop doing that fucking gay Canadian accent. You know what I mean? Like how many other there's got to be somebody in there like that. But
for me, it's a lot of his best jokes are usually some of the small like sideaway ones where he's like when he's all tongue like it's like you see I'm a guy on a week off a week kind of thing like I like to do kind of like how they do in like Denmark. We'll never see their flag on the moon, but god damn it, they look happy.
yeah
like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love all those little ones there like that, and so on. And then the other thing you were saying too is about being like a Fox fan. I do think that is kind of those ones like it's like if you kind of grew up with the Fox movies and at least just have appreciation for what they were at their time period, and in a sense paved the way for all those the other ones to come afterwards, is that's just kind of a cool thing too, and especially once you start getting some of the cameos later on. There's something kind of nice about some of those characters being like, what, it's cool seeing them get this, like, in a sense, another shot, another round, and they're not treated bad. They're not like, some of them maybe a little bit, but not for the most part, they're still kind of treated like they are people. You know what I mean? They don't just like blast them off like a dumb joke, like, glad we're not doing that again. Like one of those, because sometimes that's something that bothers me a lot in movies where like they pretty much make fun of the previous fans in a sense,
Yeah.
Like, or there'll be like one movie that's maybe off, and then like it's like you still can't, like, that movie still did something. You know what I mean? You can't just throw it under the bus like it never existed. That's and this one does a pretty good job of like really bringing things back. I mean, of course it's got once again spoilers ahead, but you got Blade coming back in here. Now, granted, that's not
that was the one that really caught me off guard.
Yeah, that one did too. And here's like nobody ever says they don't like Blade. You know what I mean? Like
but I kind of knew going in the movie was going to have a lot of cameos, but I didn't want to ruin it for myself, so I avoided all that. So when that character is popping up, I wasn't necessarily surprised, but I was happy to see him. When Blade popped up, though, that was the one where I did the whole like. I basically did like the equivalent of like the soy face pointing behind me, like looking into the camera kind of thing, like it was basically because I was not expecting fucking Blade, especially like Ryan Reynolds and they must have squashed the beef or made a big enough paycheck because Ryan Reynolds and Wesley Snipes don't like each other after Blade 3. So the fact that he came back for this, like, oh, okay, I was not expecting Blade of everybody.
Yeah, exactly. You know.
And then like
Um,
plus then like a Channing Tatum Gambit.
oh God, that was so because that was the one that I was looking so forward to that coming out. And then I remember when Hateful Eight came around, I was like, oh, Channing Tatum gets to practice his Gambit in this movie. That was what I was thinking there, and so on like that. And the fact that he comes, he's like he plays Gambit. They put him in like literally the animated series Gambit outfit, you know, the Jim Lee version, and he just kind of like gets the like chew scenery with it. I was like, that's cool. You know what I mean? Even if that's all you kind of get of this version of Gambit, it's cool that it's like, hey, it's acknowledged, and here he is. And I like how it's like he even has that line. He's like, this is the only world I know. I never seen anything but this.
And like how people were talking about like how like we fought for our worlds, we fought for this. He'd be like, sometimes you never get a chance to even see what that world is, you know. Like, he just keeps on making all these passive aggressive like lines like that. And they had a lecturer there too, and
Yeah, the Jennifer
X-23.
Garner. I thought that was really cool. Like the X-23, I kind of was like, oh, okay, cool. Even though I will say, like when they were first doing that, they were doing the announcement because at first it was like it's Blade, and you're like, oh shit, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh, it's Jennifer Garner, Elektra. Oh my god, that's amazing. You know, I'm just so glad to see her be able to come back and like giving her, another go because in a weird way, it's like, yeah, even though she seems kind of like she's different than like comic book Elektra and so on like that, but like by this point, it's almost like a legacy sort of thing, which makes it kind of like, hey, that movie was there, the Daredevil and so on, and then I was like, when they're announcing the fourth one, I'm like, oh shit, is it gonna be Ben Affleck fucking Daredevil? You know,
That'd be crazy,
like,
but
I was
yeah.
like, oh, and there was X-23. I was like, I guess that makes sense. I was like that once. It's like I felt like one of those like The Simpsons, like the sheep thing, where it's like, out of the way, you. Where the fuck is my Ben Affleck? Shit, we saw Superman already in this movie.
That was an amazing cameo. Like, Calverine. And he's just like, we will treat you so much better than those shit heels down the street. And he just big boots him into the portal. Well, I'll say that I didn't think Wolverine, I thought maybe one or the other might show up. But once I saw Jennifer Garner, I kind of like, oh, it's not likely Ben Affleck's going to be showing up because they got divorced, you know? So I'm like, okay, it's probably not going to happen. But if they did, or they're just shot on different days, they're just like CG'd into the room together. I don't know, but
like they're like parent trapped, just like the frames just
slightly off. Yeah. Well, even like something else is like just the amount of like it is like fan servicey type stuff, but it's this type of stuff that I think it uses fan service, but it's all more organic. It like fits the story. It doesn't feel like here's this for the sake of this. Maybe like one or two little moments, but overall it's all going somewhere, you know? And the fact that it's a comedy, it's able to like, I think, get away with it more.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing. It makes it's like this movie does the references right. You know, none of them feel just like they're shoot in, you know what I mean? Just to be kind of like cool, but like, let's be honest, doesn't have a whole lot. Like everything feels right. Even if you go back to the beginning part of the movie when Deadpool's like, okay, I gotta pretty much find the center of like, so the universe, Wolverine being the guy who ties down all the Fox movies in a sense. So he has to go and he's like, well, the one Wolverine's dead. So, he went out like a champ and so on like that. So you got to go find some multiverse variations. And when he goes through there, it's like, see, once again, it leads up like, okay, cool. You made it seem like it's not like it's unnecessary to see these other versions. Like, no, he has to go find another Wolverine. And I like how it goes through. It's like, oh, there's Age of Apocalypse Wolverine. There's Patch, like, secret agent kind of Wolverine. It just goes through. There's the original
comic accurate height Wolverine.
Yeah, where he's all hairy and everything like that. They go back and there's like, Wolverine fighting the Hulk in the original appearance, like, and just all the different variations. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And it's like one of those ones, like every single version of those, would be awesome if they if grabbed it and said, okay, I would settle for that one. I think that's awesome. But just the fact to show them, and then just to get Hugh Jackman to sort of like, at least, be in it for a moment, like, just to say, hey, here you go. Here's trying out these other variations of Wolverine that nobody ever used before in the movies.
Do you know what the one where he was crucified on an X in like a pile of skulls, what that was?
I thought, isn't that the one where, oh God, I want to say it's the futuristic storyline where like all the X-Men have died and he's the only one that survived so far.
Not Age of Apocalypse, because I saw that one. That was the one where he had like his hand missing and he starts beating the shit out of him with this stump.
Because Age of Apocalypse, it still has like half the guys are still alive in that, or something like that. I almost want to say not necessarily Days of Future Past, but like
okay.
like a little bit more new. I should say newer, but not 1970s or 80s, like maybe
It
90s.
wasn't Old Man Logan. The Old Man Logan was there for a second,
Yes,
which
Old Man
was
Logan was there on the. But I want to say that's what the crucifixion was, but it was one of those ones like a 2000 story or something like that.
oh, okay.
One of those ones that I don't think I've ever read, but I kind of have a slight idea. But
I was totally sold. I'll say that whole montage that would totally have me sold on Henry Cavill as Wolverine.
I know I was like, ooh, that actually would be a pretty. I mean, Scott
He's
East
a little tall, but
yeah, oh yeah, everybody's generally a little bit tall for it, but it's like Scott Eastwood's always been my like boy to throw into the ringer for the next Wolverine, but I'm like, ooh, the Henry Cavill one's almost like it's a more it's like okay, you thought Hugh Jackman was big, let's make Wolverine even bigger, but it still works, you know what I mean?
something else that was interesting about this movie is it is like definitely MCU. There's no way around it, but it's almost more of a even when they get to the Void, which is a location from Loki. Um, they still kind of mostly interact with this 20th century Fox characters. The only MCU things that are really in the okay, there's a big giant corpse of Ant-Man, but beyond that, there's like Happy Hogan at the beginning, and then I don't remember her name, but like because I know you didn't watch Loki, so the black lady at the end who kind of like helps squash the beef and like says I'll see what I can do and make things right.
The Amanda Waller lookalike.
Yeah, she's in Loki. Like those are like the only characters from MC. So I'm kind of like, even though this is where you could get away with a lot of like, references and cameos and all that, I'm kind of glad they didn't really overshadow all the Fox stuff. You know what I mean? They're like, let's give all the Fox stuff one last hoorah. And even for people who are kind of like, you know what? I wish the Fox stuff didn't. This Fox character didn't die like this. This Fox character didn't die like that. I even took like Elektra and Blade or whatever. I even took them as not even the same ones from that year, or Johnny Storm. I didn't think of them as those movies. I took them as like maybe the universe next door to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess it could be kind of like that too. I mean, I looked at them sort of like they were the Fox universe characters, and they've just now gone through this Mad Max kind of world. And that's the other one we didn't mention, the Johnny Storm one, which is actually they do it a really good way because it almost makes it give you the feeling like, oh shit, like, oh, look, they're gonna, because at this point I didn't realize it was gonna be all these Fox character things when the Johnny Storm first appeared. Like, oh well, maybe this is where like he combines with Captain America, because they kind of mislead you, which is actually kind of cool. Like they do some really good like film tricks in a sense, because when Deadpool's watching that video thing, like this could be you in the MCU, and he's like, oh look, there's Captain America, there's Thor, why is he crying? You know what I mean? What did I do? Like there's all this stuff, so it makes you almost feel like okay, it's gonna lead into that somehow, some way. But the nice thing is it doesn't ever go to that. That's just there. God knows what that is. Maybe it'll come in a later day movie. But the fact is because it does that, when you see, Chris Evans first appear, you're like, oh shit, there's Captain America. And you're like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then it's like, oh wait a second, that's Johnny Storm. Like that's way cooler. In a weird way. Nobody generally says, hey, it's Johnny Storm. That's way cooler than Captain America. But said no fucking buddy. But for this moment, you're like, oh, that's so awesome to have Johnny Storm back again.
Yeah.
The only thing that kind of, oops, sorry, Taylor, I'll let you go first.
You can go ahead. You finish that.
I was just gonna say the only thing that kind of bums me out though is I wish that Johnny Storm wouldn't have died off so quickly. That was my only kind of thing. I wish he would have been there a little bit longer. I mean, it works in sort of the jokey way, I mean, it is Deadpool, so I feel like if it was like a serious movie, you'd be like, the fuck is that? You know what I mean? Like, but since it's not, it works both ways. But I do kind of wish he was there maybe a little bit longer.
And the way I take it is like kind of a way out for people if they're mad that that character died that way. Is like, well, it's probably a universe. It might very well be that same one or the universe next door to it. Just because I'm thinking about like, because all the Logans look alike. They're all played by Hugh Jackman, except Calverine, But like, but beyond that though, like even like there's somewhere else I was going with this. Shit, it's late here. Anyway, but there's like just because I think that it didn't really bother me that they were doing, because I feel like most of the characters they showed, they gave a moment to. I wish the fight with Sabretooth lasted a little longer, but that's
Yeah,
not
that one
big deal.
too. Because that was the only, because I remember, I think it was Buddy told me that he's like, oh, they have the old Sabretooth in this movie, and I was like, what? That's fucking awesome, And then when I saw him, I was like, oh sweet, there he is, and everything like that. And then it's like, oh, it's gonna be a really cool battle, and then they literally do like the samurai thing, where it's just like one and done hit, and he's dead. I'm like,
At least it's like an anime kind of thing, which is kind of cool. The whole like
yeah.
slash by and all,
Well, that's, I mean,
But,
yeah, it does
yeah.
that samurai, like they run back and forth and ching, it's Wolverine. So I mean, it still makes sense and works, but at the same time, I kind of wish it was maybe a little bit longer. I mean, like, just say it. It's weird. Like a lot of the stuff in here, it's like if something bothers me, it's not the worst thing though. It's like it kind of like I kind of wish that did, but at the same time, it does. It's fine too. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's also, this kind of links back to what I was saying about like universes next door to it and whatnot. There's kind of the whole part where they shit can't hold down to a fucking idea tonight. I apologize, folks. I apologize. Oh yeah. No, I remember what I was gonna say. Well, even like the whole continuity of the X-Men universe is kind of all over the place. Like I think that's a little slippery because, okay, they made it so for a minute they're like, okay, Logan could be its own separate universe, or it could be in the main lane continuity. And then there's Deadpool and Deadpool's buddies with the X-Men and this and that, with the exception, well, Wolverine's not there or whatever. But then it's in the same universe, so it's like, wait, so when everything was all like gone to shit and falling apart, and in 2029 or whatever, because I watched that a little bit before seeing this. Are you telling me like how was the school running if there's no mutants around by then or anything? Like that kind of thing. So I think there's already kind of a little bit of a jumbled mess of that. And this isn't me trying to like rewrite this movie, but the one thing about whenever they do like multiverse stuff and time travel in these, I feel like the reasons why they got to do it are always a little overly contrived. Like, okay, he's an anchor point of this universe. And if he goes, the rest of the universe kind of like dismantles within 4,000 years or so, but still like, okay, so anytime someone does a noble sacrifice and dies doing the right thing, that could very well end the universe. Like just some kind of like, there's some of that kind of stuff, like the stuff, like if you think about it, and like, it's kind of, I think you could have got there a little easier, like him jumping around, saving people, bringing people back to life, this and that, with all the already inconsistencies within that universe. Like what we started in First Class, Charles Xavier still has hair, but he can't walk by the end. But then the flashback to X-Men 3, he can walk, but it's Patrick Stewart. And then we go to Dark Phoenix, which to take place in the 90s, but everyone looks maybe like they're 10 years older, from the 60s. They don't look like they've aged a day, really. So like it's kind of things like that.
Yeah,
like they could have addressed that. Like you guys were fucking around with the times so much there, it made it unstable. They could have just done something smaller like that, not to rewrite everything, but
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I felt like they just wanted to get to the point without really thinking too hard on how it got there. Yeah, it is kind of a bizarre way of doing it. I mean, everything's like fourth wall sort of breaking, like in a weird way. Like it's a universe, but it's really like just at the same time. Also, you just felt like you could just see Mickey Mouse behind there, like, yeah, take that, Fox. You fucks, you're dead now, huh? You don't got no fucking shit now, huh? 20th century, fuck you.
I did like how like he had no problem acknowledging this is a Disney movie, and like it's like Pinocchio, his face is buried in my ass, and he's lying to me and saying it's almost over when he knows he's fucking lying.
Well, I feel like it's that one where like I feel like you could tell that probably the main people at Disney do not want this movie to happen, but the money outweighs that they're like, fuck it, money's good.
Apparently, Kevin Feige really wanted a lot of this kind of stuff early on. He couldn't do a lot of it.
I'm talking more like Disney,
yeah.
Not know. Kevin Feige's kind of just in the Marvel like champion part of it, but
mm-hmm.
I feel like the top people of Disney kind of, you could tell that like this is probably not good for the brand, but you gotta like money.
Yeah. I knew that it was all changing like once they, because like, Grant doesn't have the Disney logo, but we all know it's Disney by this point, I guess I'm just thinking like, just like that, there's that point like, oh my God, Disney put out a PG-13 movie under the Disney logo. And now it's just like, okay, they bought Marvel. They have a Marvel section over at Disneyland or California Adventure, whatever. And then they're like, they're putting in I doubt they'll have the Deadpool chimichanga stand in like California. I doubt they'll have that. But just the idea that like, there's a possibility now.
Yeah, there is. Well, I think it's that thing that I think that finally people are kind of getting to that point where it's like there used to be that point where it's like you gotta like hide the children from the. And I think people are just like, no, fucking kids actually grow up better if you just allow them to like see shit earlier on and so on. Like, let's be honest, every one of those like Disney kids that was like, they're in fucking high school and their parents are like, no rated R movies. Always turned up fucked up. Always did. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a single one of them I can think of that, like, is like, oh, yeah, their life was really good. It was like, no. Only, not saying they're not, I'm not saying they're, like, evil people, but I'm just saying, like, there's going to be some crimes committed. Some mistakes are going to be made. You know what I mean? Because they need to try it out. You know what I mean? Like, they never got this just like,
they need to try it out. Just, what's this crime thing all about? What's this? It's freedom, isn't it? Isn't that what crime really is? Just freedom? Like, oh well, shit. I'm sorry. The most edgiest thing you ever seen is Treasure Planet. I'm sorry about that.
And it was edited on TBS.
Yeah. The edited version of Treasure Planet. Yeah.
But so I think that I do think that the Deadpool movie, this one here, I think this is going to be what the resurgence sort of is. Of the kind of like Marvel stuff. I think hopefully they're going to kind of take off, the fucking Mickey Mouse gloves on things and let them be like, take the, stop smoothing the hard edges and just let comic books be kind of comic books. Again, I think that this is kind of going to be hopefully the step in the right direction, where, yeah, they won't just be like, let's just make these kind of like, too friendly. We're going to make them violent. We're going to make them a little bit more hard. Hopefully, they'll make the stories a little bit more like, deeper and so on, too.
This one actually kind of caught me off guard with how emotional it was in certain scenes. Like, just not even with, like, Wolverine, because there's, like, aside from being, like, post-apocalyptic in the void, he didn't kill them all, but there is, like, hints of Old Man Logan, like the Wolverine carrying baggage and kind of like, I let them all down, like that kind of thing. There's hints of that there. But then there's also even like to a more grounded level, there's actual more hints of like the more emotional things with like Deadpool and Vanessa. Because in the trailer they're like, okay, they're still together, cool. And this you see them like, oh, they're still they're just friends. They broke up. So it's kind of like, and when you see like their flashback to their conversation, like to their breakup, it's a very real conversation. He's not like Deadpooling quick, like quipping it up. He's just, it's a very real conversation. So just like, oh shit, this thing still has some heart to it,
Yeah, no, it's definitely got a lot going on for it, a lot more depth and so on too. And then it's like once again, it does the comedy right where it knows where to put a good joke, and it doesn't put one where you're trying to have a dramatic scene, and then you just break it just to break it, which is always one of those things that bothers me a lot in any movie. But yeah, no, it rolls real fine with that, And then, I mean, granted, you do know when you're going into Deadpool, you are going into a comedy. It's not like you don't think of it going to be something else first. It's going to be comedy, and then everything else will follow second. But I
do think it was funny at the beginning when he decides he wants to he wants to join the Avengers, and he takes Cable's time machine, goes to the Avengers, and he's being interviewed by Happy Hogan, and he's just like being like really aggressive with him. And he's just like, I'm sorry, I lash out aggressively when I'm nervous or whatever. And like, it just some of the small things he'd say, like, oh, I didn't know a chauffeur was a member of the Avengers, just like the small, like just dickish things. Like he's totally blowing the interview,
He's like, yeah, what's your superpower? Parallel parking?
Yeah, like all that kind of stuff. Like it sounds very like, it was probably the tamer jokes within the whole movie, but at the same time, I thought it just worked. And even the idea of kind of like yeah, you're not gonna be on this team. Sorry, like he's like, well, thanks for prepping me up. I'm ready for the big guy. Like, oh no, you're not. You get through me, then maybe you see the big guy. Like what? Like just all that I thought was pretty good. I don't know. Like I have
Yeah.
no real major complaints about this movie. It's just kind of the same thing you were saying. Like, oh, I wish the fight was saber. Like total like fanboy. Like, oh yeah, like fanboy complaints of like, I wish maybe the fight with Sabretooth was longer. I wish maybe there's a little bit more time with the Blade and Gambit and Elektra at the end or whatever. But at the exact same time, the only I guess actual kind of story complaint I have is I think there's an easier way to get there as opposed to um, the world falls apart if this one person dies just because the story demands it. I mean, I'll go with it. I've been reading comic books long enough for some shit like that. I mean, Jason Todd came back to life because he wasn't supposed to die apparently, and Superboy punched a cosmic wall or whatever the fuck, and he's alive suddenly, So it's just like, yeah, I've read enough comic books, like sure, fine, and that's this isn't even as dumb as that, but I just think I feel like you write yourself into weird corners with that or distinguishing chosen one type shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think if the way I looked at it was that the joke was that Wolverine's always been sort of the breadwinner for the Fox. If you
I
took
guess it could be
Wolverine
that.
out, like that's how I kind of looked at it because it's like generally like he's the one that sells the X-Men movies. If you take Wolverine out of an X-Men movie, the X-Men movie's not nearly as good, or people don't like it nearly as much. I'm not saying that it can't be because First Class is good and so on like that. But then it's like you throw Wolverine in there, people like it more. All his solo movies did real solid. You know what I mean? So I think that's the thing is that he was always sort of the breadwinner of the group. And they're just kind of that was the key joke where Fantastic Four, Daredevil and that kind of world and so on like that. Only did decently compared to everything else. And I think that's where the whole Wolverine, he's the paperweight of all this stuff there. But yeah, it's like one of those ones. Like one thing I thought is just like once you see that like team up, it's like I would love to see just an entire movie that was that Deadpool, Wolverine, Blade, Elektra, X-23, Gambit, and if you even had Johnny Storm in there, I'm like just that 7 right there. I'm like that's a team in itself. Like I'm 100% sold on whatever adventure these guys go on.
In like some wasteland, yeah, that'd be a pretty good team up right there. I'd read that, especially because throw Blade on any team, I'm just like, okay, what's
Yeah,
Blade gonna do? Like so, he's not in enough things. We need more Blade in general.
yeah.
But like, yeah, I think that this thing, it's yeah. I mean, I don't really know more to say about it other than like if you like Marvel, you like superhero stuff, and especially if you like the old Fox movies, check it out. It kind of hits on all those marks.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of cool thing is it does hit. I mean, even like another character we didn't mention, it has Juggernaut in there from X-Men 3, which I was actually it's that weird one too. Like when X-Men 3 comes out, you see that Juggernaut. It's like I mean that guy's don't get me wrong, that guy's buffer than most people out there. I'm not gonna say this, but when I picture Juggernaut in my head, I picture him being even bigger, and so that guy made him feel kind of small. But like to see that guy come back, I was like, that's just cool enough that they bring him back anyways.
That's one of the reasons that made me think some of these characters from a universe over because that was the same look, but that was a different actor.
I guess that's true. Well, then again, that who knows what happened to that actor? You never know. It like if that guy's he's like
That was the guy.
I'm not as buff anymore.
That was the guy in like I mean he's in a bunch of stuff. What comes to mind is the Hitman character from or one of the Hitman throw a rock you'll hit a Hitman and like I think in Snatch.
Oh, that's right.
Like I think he was originally like a football player, like international football player. Well, I'm on their soil, so I got to use their words for it. But
you mean soccer? You mean
yeah, you could say
grass
it. Yeah,
fairy.
You can say it. I can't. I'll get fucking deported if I say that shit. Yeah,
yeah, that's it.
No, but like I think he was. I think that's what he was, a footballer. But yeah.
Yeah. Maybe,
and he became an actor later. And he's another. Oh, he's also in Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrel. He's the guy with the kid.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Not in Deadpool and Wolverine, but the good guy that played him in X-Men 3.
The one thing I was thinking because we didn't mention the villain in this movie. They used Cassandra Nova, who's like, once again, Professor Xavier literally never likes to tell anybody about his fucking past. Like, oh yeah, by the way, I also have this sister, crazy bitch, and also my brother's Juggernaut. If that's not fucking weird enough, just to let you guys know. Which I'm surprised they didn't actually put any references into that, since he had Cassandra Nova there. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, there's her fucking brother. He's got the helmet.
I actually think one of the goons on the side there, I could have just been like a big guy in a striped shirt. But I think one of the goons on the side in the little Ant-Man encampment was the Russian from Punisher. There's that scene in Thomas Jane Punisher where the guy with a big Russian dude starts smacking the fuck out of him.
Yeah, Kevin Nash. I don't think that was Kevin Nash in there.
Not Kevin, but the character, just because he's a big guy and he has the striped shirt. And they mentioned the Punisher a few times.
Yeah, because Kevin Nash is who plays him in there. Yeah, I know. When they kept mentioning the Punisher, like, this is a perfect example. I was like, I'm kind of bummed that they didn't just... really, Thomas Jane would have been the one you chose. But I'm like, well, that's technically a Lionsgate movie, so I'll let that pass, because I'll use my movie studio logic to let that one pass. But it would have been cool if Thomas Jane would have shown
Plus,
that.
Ray Winston's dead, too, so...
Oh, is he? Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Because I was like, once I'm like, you could get, I guess you can't get Ray Winston, but you could get, like, Dolph Lundgren, too, but that might be, that's a completely different era. So I think that, like, if you would have just got, Thomas Jane, that would, even if he just showed up and fired that rocket launcher, that's all he has to do, fire a rocket launcher. That's all we want. And maybe even that vehicle that they're in, like, instead of using, like, the goofy car thing, it could have been the Punisher van, because the Punisher van is fucking badass. The Deadpool 3 does give you a crap ton of characters, like, you know what I mean? Like, you never feel like, man, I wish there was more. It's like, no, they actually give you a lot. You do kind of sometimes wish it, like, just because you're like, well, I'd like to see Punisher or Thomas Jane in there. I mean, just why not? I know it's a Lionsgate movie, so I'll let it pass. But, so if this is the send-off of the 2000s, is what you're saying, and that, our generation is fucking dead, fuck you, get out of here. But actually still give us that fucking money for the theater, but,
I think it was more of a send-off to the Fox ones, and I think that the Wesley Snipes is just bonus, really. That's the way I took it, just because...
What is Blade a Fox movie, or is it a...
He was New Line.
Okay, so it's actually kind of funny that it's New Line. I mean, it's Warner Brothers.
Yeah, technically Warner Brothers, yeah. But they own the rights to the character again, so they can put him in stuff. I think Hulk, it's still a little dicey on when and where they can use him. I think it's about to run out. But yeah, Red Hulk's going to be the bad guy in Captain America, the new one. So that's cool.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Harrison Ford's playing him.
Yeah, I think I heard that part. So that'd be cool. Well, it does make me kind of feel like where we could go with Deadpool next, and stuff, and then almost like they joke about Hugh Jackman staying Wolverine forever, but it is kind of one of those ones like. You know what? If he could just keep popping up, even as just cameos, I have no problem with that. You can get another Wolverine if you want, but since everybody kind of now knows that you got this multi-universe thing, I think just to explain your actor reasons.
I think that they left it kind of open because I was expecting something to happen where they call in Loki they call it pruning. They destroy like a whole timeline and whatever. I was expecting it to be. I was expecting them to. Maybe cherry pick Deadpool and his friends and maybe some other people from that universe and just bring them into the MCU. But by the end of this, that universe is still standing and they're leaving it alone. So that I'm kind of like, I don't imagine they're going to go out of their way and just do, hey, we got to reach into this universe and get the TVA involved again every time they want to use Deadpool or do a Deadpool related thing. I think what's going to happen, this is just me guessing. I have no idea. I mean, Comic-Con is happening right now. So maybe something they present at Hall H today will be disproven. I don't know what I say. But I have a feeling that they're going to do something like Deadpool, maybe Hugh Jackman Wolverine will be in Secret Wars, like Avengers Secret Wars or something like that. And then from there, they reboot stuff and everything just more consistent and all in the same timeline. But I'm guessing it's going to be something kind of like that, because he even makes jokes about how this multiverse thing, it doesn't work out. It's too messy. Everyone knows it,
Yeah, well, it feels like it sounds weird, but it's like they had to call on Deadpool to sort of like fix things and streamline it back in a more like cognitive narrative. You
But it
know,
doesn't even. It's
but
still
just funny
its own
when you think of
standalone
it that
thing.
way. When you
It's
think
still
about
funny
like,
though, because it's still its own standalone thing though. It doesn't really have any big wider effect on the rest of the MCU. I mean, I guess you could do this, could do that, but it doesn't suddenly bring the X-Men or whoever into it. It's still just this, it's its own little universe over here.
oh yeah, I know it's totally its own thing. But I mean, it's almost like you have to call on the most odd, bizarre version character to kind of make things go right.
Yeah. I also think it's funny when they first brought in Deadpool, like he was literally just a mean, evil, sinister fucking asshole, and now he's like, just trying to fuck everything and just trying to be, just all quippy the whole time. So I like Deadpool. I like Deadpool, but I just think it's just kind of funny the progression this character has had from when he was first made to now.
Yeah, exactly. Just the different kind of variations and how he was. I mean, he's always been funny, and he's always been
He was
kind
like a
of
smart ass. He was a
yeah,
smart ass, but he was a
smart
bad
ass.
guy.
But yeah, more of a bad guy, and then it just kind of turned to anti-hero, turned to good guy, and so on. It would be kind of interesting. I would like to see. I know it's kind of a weird one to have, but is to have the Spider-Man Deadpool movie. You know,
hmm I don't know. I think that what's going to happen if they put Deadpool into other movies, it's probably going to be something like he's toning himself down. He's being PG-13. He's probably doing a little bit fourth wall breaky, but not too much because other characters are there. You know what I mean? Or if it's a
yeah.
Deadpool movie, he's all in. And even Deadpool himself, he doesn't really have his own like wide roster of characters. It's usually him interacting with the rest of the Marvel universe, like in the comics.
Yeah, no, I definitely like that. But I think just him, yeah, you'd have to tone him down. It'd have to be the PG-13 version of Deadpool. But realistically, there's nothing kind of wrong with that because a lot of times some of the best jokes are the PG-13, if not PG jokes that he says. So
Mhm.
yeah, you wouldn't get the violence and everything like that, but you could still mix that in with certain characters and whatnot. It's kind of like Punisher. Sometimes you got to throw Punisher and you got to do a PG-13 Punisher of him, and that's still not always the worst thing too. You give him a little bit more sci-fi guns, whatever, he'll work with it.
Well, they're coming back to Hall H for the first time in a while. So, and they did a whole drone show advertising Deadpool with the last minute thing of Galactus and a four in the sky. So, okay, so a Fantastic Four also. But then I'm guessing they're also probably going to show a slate for other things coming out. I'm assuming. So
Yeah.
we'll see. So hopefully, now that we got this, there's officially an R-rated movie under the MCU. So I guess we could do Punisher now, or I really like Heroes for Hire. That's what I really want.
That would be badass to have that going on there. So yeah, it does open up a lot of those things. The other nice thing too is that this movie was, when I went to the cinema at least, it was definitely crowded comparatively to like the last handful of years of Marvel, where there's always people there, but not like gangbusters. This one, like, it had a solid amount of people. Nothing like old school cinema days, but like still, if I see a theater that's got like like almost half of it filled up, I'm like, oh, it's doing pretty good then.
Yeah. Well, it's like
in the '90s, like that would be like, oh, it's a bad weekend, I guess.
last time I saw a movie like almost filled up to the brim was opening day on the Mario Brothers movie.
Oh, really? Gosh, that one was still pretty crowded, but it definitely wasn't that much. I feel like the last time that I saw a theater that was pretty much close to being filled to the brim, if not almost there, was Endgame.
Really? Okay, yeah. Endgame, Super Mario Brothers. Guardians 3 was pretty packed. Guardians 3 was packed, but
that one was pretty solid still too.
yeah. But yeah. No, like I am curious to where they go from here. I honestly think they're getting to reboot themselves to an extent, or like a soft reboot, just to trim off some of the excess, and like just because I don't think they can last. I think it's about to buckle under the weight of itself. You know what I mean? Like I think they're gonna reboot it. We're gonna have like a new Iron Man, a new Steve Rogers, a new whatever, but then like the more recent characters that were added, like the younger characters are added, they're gonna stay, but it's maybe alternate version. They just look similar, something kind of like that. That's just my assumption.
I think so. That's the only logical way to do it. And if you ever want to do a weird cameo thing later down the line, it's there's always that possibility. But no, I do think that from Deadpool 3 onwards, I think that this hopefully will be a real strong new direction to kind of go. And I know.
Because
I hopefully hope they'll just be a little bit more dialed in than the last couple of years. Not saying that none of the movies are bad. It's just a lot of times it's just like you kind of would walk out of some of them and be like, yeah, if I didn't see that, it wasn't like I'd be missing out on much.
and I know I've said this a lot whenever we talk about more recent Marvel movies, but since Endgame, the only ones actually Spider-Man,
Well, Spider-Man's
No Way
the
Home was pretty
exception.
packed.
Yeah, that's the exception to Spider-Man.
That one was pretty packed. That one was really packed. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, Spider-Man No Way Home was pretty fun. Black
Guardians
Panther
3.
2 I liked, and Guardians 3, and this. Everything else has been like I liked Shang-Chi more when I first saw it, but the more I thought about it, I was kind of like, the last half of that movie really doesn't like nosedive, but it really kind of like it starts off really good, but then it just kind of like peters out kind of.
San Francisco, like that part's good when it's like a kung fu movie. Once the kung fu movie starts to go away, I feel like that's when it's like, oh, okay.
And they go to the magical CG world, and like, oh, this seems like it felt like they almost kind of like jumped right to the sequel. Like I feel like you go to the magical CG world in the sequel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like maybe just me. I don't know. But then I could have watched them fighting assassins in San Francisco the whole movie. But that's just
I
me.
would be totally fine with that. Yeah.
Or go to I don't remember if they went to Madripoor or a real country, but wherever they go, like even there, that would have been fine too. But yeah. So there's that. Eternals I don't really care for. I liked Doctor Strange, but it didn't blow me away.
Well, a lot of them are like that kind of like they're not bad, but they're not like there's nothing to really write home about, I guess.
Yeah, like Marvel's wasn't god awful, but I didn't think it was really great either. Like they reached that point where as they came out more, they felt like, oh, another one. Didn't feel like a big like event, like the next big chapter or this big next thing leading to something. It just feel like, oh, here's another one, and it's all more just set up for something, and not even know how it's all going to connect really, because nothing was really properly connecting for a while. Even this doesn't. I mean, it connects to the old Fox movies, but it doesn't really seem like it's. I'm sure in some way it will, but it doesn't. I can't really tell immediately how it connects to everything else. But that's fine. The movie itself was fun.
Yeah, exactly. Everything else in it, like the action, the comedy, just the classic characters. That's all what you're there for. But yeah, no, I'm getting excited for whatever comes next. And I think that Deadpool kind of kicked everybody in the pants a bit. What they all needed just to kind of get back into gear and start making some more hard edge, violent, don't give a fuck what you say type movies that used to exist in the 2000s, and then got soft in the 2010s. So, yeah, no, I'm looking forward to where we go in here. But yeah, beyond all that good stuff, though, probably a good place to wrap it all up at. You can always go to oldmanorange.com where we got all the old podcasts, Pizza Boys comic books, and all that other fun videos that we've done in the past. But till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan.
And we'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.